Welcome to the Creative REI podcast, your go-to hub for all things real estate, business, life, travel, etc. I'm your host, Dante, joined by my co-host, Ed, both real estate professionals on a mission to connect and educate. This podcast is sponsored by PropStream, the most trusted provider of comprehensive real estate data nationwide. What's poppin', everybody? It's the Creative REI Experience. I'm your host, Dante Pena. We got here Edward Nava. Today's episode, or every podcast, is brought to you by PropStream, one of the United States' best data sources for real estate data. If you need to get tax liens, pre-foreclosures, or somewhere where you want to find a motivated seller, check out PropStream. We got a link to show you a tutorial if you need to learn how to use PropStream. We are an affiliate. Today's guest is a special treat. He is a builder, developer. He is a brokerage. He's an investor. And personally, I kind of look up to him as a mentor as well. The guy's done a lot of deals in San Diego. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have learned about SB9, Henish, Pulickal. We need to have that was an introduction. It was a mouthful. It's like when you order at Starbucks.
We'll edit it out. We'll edit it with
you just got that latte?
Yeah,
venti
the latte,
mocha.
triple cream.
Upside down.
So Henish, tell us about yourself. How'd you get into real estate?
Just out of luck. I was graduated college in 2002. I interviewed at 40 to different companies, anywhere from Abercrombie to selling furniture.
They call Abercrombie employees models. Did you know that?
I must have been more handsome at the time because they picked me out of the job fair. The lady was like, you could
be a model.
You could come work at Abercrombie. I'm like, what? I have to buy clothes for the interview because that was $200 for that. That's
why not give us some clothes?
So and I just fell into it. The job that I interviewed for at the time was subprime mortgages, which thank you for your 2007 recession. That was me.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. So I got into that. I was the bank. My clients were loan officers, and I was selling subprime mortgages right out of college.
My buddy calls it selling the interest rates to the banks. Or were you doing the opposite?
Well, it was subprime. So these are people that didn't qualify for traditional financing.
Right.
So they'd get 80-20 stateds and get 100% financing because
no doc loans. The milkman made $120K a year somehow.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Seems justifiable because he delivered in a rich area.
Yeah.
That's why.
So it's funny. That's when I first started getting my feet wet with real estate was around that time. And I got recruited to work as a loan officer. But by the time I actually got hired, nobody was qualifying. So I switched to loan modifications.
There you go. And so you kind of ride the waves. And that's kind of what I did too, is I rode the wave of that industry. 2007 to 2009, I got a chance to run the foreclosed homes department of those same crappy loans that we were doing. And got more into real estate that way. At the time, I got my license, and I was sitting in an office, managing some people, making a decent living. Meanwhile, the brokers on the outside, the top ones, had an extra digit in their income.
Yeah,
and that seemed attractive to me.
Right. So you're like, I'm trying to be like those guys.
Yeah, I want to be on the outside, running around. I knew they were working a lot of hours. Knew they were working late hours, early hours, all day long. But that was a trade-off you're willing to make when you're young and full of energy, and you're like, I could do that.
Right. Putting in the work where when you get older, you kind of want to start delegating to elevate.
Yeah, you need to have passive income by then. Right. And so I was with the guy yesterday at this very, very, very nice house in La Jolla. And I was like, what do you do now? He's like, just protecting the balance sheet. I was like, I got to remember to say that when I'm older and richer. Protecting the balance sheet.
Protecting the balance sheet.
Just making sure I can sustain my multi-generational balance sheet, as it said.
His kids.
Well, the guy runs a bank. So,
like an actual bank.
But he's just on the board now since he doesn't run anymore.
How do you get into a gig like that?
But, what he was telling me is part of his job is connecting with business owners and connecting them with other business owners internationally, and
almost like a venture capitalist.
Yeah, so he's kind of in on the deals. He's writing the loans for
out of the country. Yeah. Any particular countries you know about?
Let me not disclose.
Okay.
That's
well, I just say that because we were hanging out with Vivian actually, and Vivian introduced us to a gentleman, Spencer, who does international real estate, where he'll teach you how to get houses without even having citizenship, which I thought was interesting. And one of the projects that he had was a brand new
Cabo,
townhouse.
right?
Was it Cabo or Tulum? I can't
Somewhere
remember.
One of those, yeah.
But the house at the top of the house had a pool, and they have these like tubes that connect to each pool, so you can swim through the tube from one person's roof to another, which I thought was a cool concept.
That's pretty cool. I see some things going wrong there, but at the same time, I mean, I guess there's probably some air in those tubes. Hopefully,
maybe
come up for air.
The water's So I mean, it wasn't too long, but it's like just a quick
it's a gimmick,
slide.
but it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing to have.
I thought it was a cool concept.
Yeah, for sure.
So you got into real estate. You started off selling subprime, then what? Stopping the foreclosures or buying them or selling them to people.
I was at the bank, and so it was the department after they had foreclosed,
Mhm.
and so then now we were doing evictions, cleaning the house up, listing it, selling it. Nationwide.
So REOs.
REOs.
Okay.
REOs.
For the listeners that don't know what an REO is, it's a bank real estate owned property. They've already foreclosed on it, so now the bank owns it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so now I just got to sell it and minimize the losses.
Okay.
Because this is when property prices took a bloodbath.
How are you feeling about REOs now?
There's very few of them.
I do see a lot of them though. So using PropStream, you can see, I get REOs sent to me, and then linked properties. They have 200-300 properties nationwide,
not in San Diego, right?
Well, no, everybody wants.
So during the peak time in San Diego, there was 400 foreclosures a month.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the delta.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a handful. Now there's about 20 foreclosures a month for residential properties in San Diego County, but only about
20 foreclosures a month.
Correct.
Wow.
Only about 1 or 2 of those turn into REO because
somebody buys them.
Because the principal balance is low enough where someone will pay more than that.
I noticed some of these deals they're trying to sell them for because, these disclosure states, you can see what they bought the houses for.
You can see that in California for sure.
Well, it's a disclosure state. So other states like Florida, same thing. We were looking at one in Jacksonville, and it's like, all right, they bought this house for $150,000 and they're trying to sell it for like $350,000, and like, come on, bro, just get your money back. But I mean, it's a bank, I guess it makes sense. So we try to submit offers in them. We haven't gotten lucky yet.
So here's what happens. If you buy a house at a foreclosure and say the mortgage is $100,000, it's worth $300,000. So you're willing to pay $200,000. That extra $100,000 goes to the seller, the person that was foreclosed
legally, but they don't tell people that.
Yeah, they're obligated, but you're right. It's hard to get it to them. I had an escrow balance from a refinance on one of my houses. It took them over 2 years to get it to me, and I had to hammer them before I got my money. It was about $5,000.
And you knew about it and contacted them in regards to
Think about how many people don't know that.
I feel like that's a business itself.
I agree. I thought about that. So if someone wants to steal that idea, like you could be like, hey, I'll find your...
Forget stealing the idea. Let's partner on it. We'll figure it out. We'll just put the team together.
Mortgage refunds, and I'm taking 20%. It's like those ERC credits that people are doing, right? Hey, I'll get you money you didn't know you had.
Like the COVID funds that we're doing for the employees?
That's what I'm saying. It's the ERCs, the employee retention credits. So.
We may be able to go into the data that we get and see what foreclosures were around, and then you can see transfer of titles. So transfer of titles will tell you if it's sold or not.
It will. You can find that data. It is publicly available. You can see how much it sold for over the bid. Because the bid is typically how much they owe on the mortgage. If it's sold for 100 more, it'd be like that seller was due 100, or the homeowner was. If you could find them, right? Because they typically left. They're gone. They're in the wind, and some of them are like head down in the sand, buried because they're embarrassed they just got their house foreclosed.
Right.
So if you could get a hold of them, like, by the way, I can get you money.
We have a lead like that now, actually, in Florida. He's like, I think I just lost my house. They're going to give me a couple weeks to get out. And I'm like, it was listed by an agent who didn't want to talk to us. So we got a hold of him ourselves.
So the catch is on this is that you don't know how much your gain is until the bank resells it.
Right.
Right. If it's an REO.
Right.
If it's a foreclosure, well, then that's immediate.
Right.
So, so if it's foreclosed and then it's bought by an investor, if it's bought by an investor at the courthouse, well, the bank was paid off and they have their overage. Yeah. And the bank has to pay you their proceeds.
So it's good stuff. This is very good stuff. That's dope. We're going to do that. We're going to look into that. They just gave us a note right now. It's a business idea. We're down for it.
See, this is where if you invent a business together, then I'm like, we're in the business together.
Yeah. Right. Well, we've been trying to collaborate. So Henish is a big, he's been doing quite a bit of deals in San Diego. There's a law called SB 9. You want to explain what SB 9 is to the people who might not know in San Diego?
There's a new one of these every few months, but SB 9 is the one that allows you to split lots. And so only a small percentage of single family lots qualify because of restrictions of whether it's rural or hillside or historic, or if the property is located in the wrong location of the lot, right? You really need a front justified house or a back justified house so you can peel off a corner. If your house in the middle of the lot, you can't peel off 40% of the lot to someone else. Makes sense? Okay. So it's kind of limited. But it does give you an opportunity. You know, the thinking is that if you're a family and you own a house with a big yard and your kids can't get a property, well, guess what? You know, son, daughter, family, whatever.
Flag lot, build them a house.
Build them a house. They got the property. They could own it. They could mortgage it themselves. And now they're California dreaming.
Right.
And mom and dad still have their house. They didn't have to give anything up. So that'd be one of the thinkings. Other thinking is if you're an investor, like, okay, I'm going to peel this piece of the lot off and sell it and keep the front house.
So people can sell it if they wanted to?
100%.
So ADUs is not necessarily just for SB9. SB9 is just for the flag lot split.
Flag lot split. The newest ADU rule is pretty interesting, is that now across the state, if you're a nonprofit and you own a property and has ADUs, you can sell that ADU.
503Cs?
You can sell the ADU.
Is it 503C?
I don't know about that.
Oh.
That sounds like the SEC filings for...
Yeah, there's a nonprofit that buys real estate.
Oh, got it. Yeah. So that's the tax code for charities and nonprofits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, if you're a nonprofit, you can now sell off your ADUs, and now they're giving cities the option to allow individual homeowners or investors to do it too. It has to pass on a city by city district or decision.
I call it municipals. Is that correct?
Municipalities, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
whatever the local governance is, yeah. If it's the
Right.
county, it's the county. If it's a city, it's your city.
Okay. So what are based off the ADUs? Because you also own a construction company,
Yes.
Cal Home Co.
Yes.
Right. So you guys mainly specialize in ADUs. You do full rehabs though,
Yes.
obviously. But with the ADU thing, you guys have been pretty big on it. What have been kind of like some of the, let's talk about experiences with ADUs, maybe with permitting process or just the whole experience from A to Z?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to plan for it. You know, no one can say I want an ADU and we start building next week. It's like, I want an ADU, we'll start building next year.
Right.
Right. Because you're going to take 2 to 4 to 6 months to get your plans ready. And then you're going to take another 4 to 6 months to get your plans approved. And if you're in the coastal areas and you're building it as an ADU as opposed to a guest house, that's another 1 year on top of that time frame.
So 3 years total or 2?
2 years total for
Okay.
coastal, maybe a year and a half if you run them concurrently. So you can run your city plans with coastal and typically get it done in about a year and a half. But the reality is it takes most people 2 to 6 months to get their plans done because they're thinking about it, their architect is slow, whatever happens.
Yeah. How do you feel about getting up to code for things? Have you had to do that before?
I haven't had to do like code corrections on unpermitted places. We haven't done that personally.
Yeah.
I know it's a big business because a lot of people built unpermitted stuff. It's a can of worms.
It's common. I know. I'm going through it right now. I'm scared.
This is a can of worms, you know, just because I'm not a budget contractor and people that have unpermitted structures,
They're
they
trying
want
to
me to
budget.
they want to do this on a budget, like a tight budget. And, you know, you just can't squeeze water from that rock because it's like, as soon as I open that wall, I'm like, the framing is wrong. The electrical's wrong. The plumbing is wrong. The sewer lines were done wrong. Sorry that my original estimate's off by 3 times.
Yeah.
Because this is way worse than you could have imagined. Right. That's usually what happens. Because you can't see it behind the drywall.
Yeah. Well, so and we just submitted plans to Oceanside, figuring that out. And that's what I'm concerned about is when we peel back that drywall on what they're going to say. So, and it's ironic. We posted on it and somebody was like, hey, I was a part of that project. I'm like, perfect. Who's the guy that owns it? We need to talk to them and figure out some stuff. Cause, I don't think it was disclosed that it wasn't permitted to the previous sellers.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Disclosures
deal.
are the biggest reasons for probably real estate lawsuits that they have.
I just met a real estate attorney at a Carlsbad and they said that's most of their real estate
Always.
is not disclosing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 3 rules of real estate transactions are disclose. But on real estate purchases,
we let you know, hey, we let you know, and it's priced for that reason. It's
Right.
usually what I say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. None of it's permitted. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So recent projects. What are we working on right now?
I've got a bunch in the pipeline, man. Got 4 flips I'm working on right now from house in an ADU in Imperial Beach.
Mind you, he does multi-million-dollar flips in San Diego. You don't nickel and dime. 4 multi-million-dollar flips.
They're not multi-million-dollar.
Okay.
That'll be like 1.3 million when
Okay.
I'm done. Doing another one, Scripps Ranch, that'll be worth about 1.6 when I'm
Scripps
done.
Ranch is nice.
It's a nice property. This was a funny one because it was, I never buy properties in the market. It's always direct to seller or off market somehow. And in this case, I had a client that lived across from a flip of mine years ago. I made friends with him. He's like, hey, I'd really like if I could use you as my realtor when it's time.
Networking.
Yep. And
Love
so
it.
I was happy to do it because I attracted him to come. And so years later, this is probably 4 years later, he called me up a few months ago and said, hey, I'm looking at this house. Can you come Saturday? And I had like a kid's birthday party. I can't come. I'll come some other time. Check it out. Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
So he checks it out. I go the next day and I was like, I love this house. If you don't buy it, I'm buying it. He's like, ha ha ha. You know, he's like,
no, but seriously.
he's like, it's too much work for me. And I was like, okay, cool. I make some calls, call the agent, butter her up. And I'm like, I need to buy this house. And she was already in escrow with another buyer. And I said, if he gets shaky, and I can't tell you how many times this has worked. If he gets shaky, I'm solid. Let me check, send you my references. Here's 100 properties I've done.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that house. She's like, okay. And then she calls me the next day. She's like, buyer's getting shaky. So I bought that house. A week later, I sent the that home buyer client of mine a gift, some cash and a nice Cutco knife.
Nice.
And he's like, what's this for? I was like, I bought that house. He's like, you bought that house? I was like, I wasn't joking. I don't like joke about things like
People
that.
don't take it seriously when they're not in the industry. I don't think they're, you know, because they're like, oh, you buy houses? Like, how do you do that? Right? Like, it's just funny when you're on this. We've gotten just normal talking numbers, and we don't realize that like the numbers we're talking are like really big numbers. So when people hear, we're like 100K, 50K here, tell them I'm going to give them 50K for this. And people are hearing these conversations and like looking at this 22-year-old kid, like, who is this kid? He goes to the bank and they think he's fraudulent every time. They're like, is this really your business? Like, tell them about your experience about being 22 and an investor.
It's hard. It's like just people don't really take you too seriously, which I mean, it makes sense, you know. Like I think at first glance, you're like, you know, what are you doing here? Are you here to clean, or are you the maintenance guy? Or But especially with the banks, they've always given me a hard time, especially just simple wire deposits to just cash for keys or I don't know, simple little repaint on the house. They always doubt me, like, what is this for? Do you know this person? Is it the first time you're doing business? Blah blah blah.
More for him than me, but it's funny to watch. We kind of make fun of it.
Yeah,
he's still a few years off from growing a beard, though. That might help.
He didn't even have facial hair. He's barely got dirt on his lip.
No, we love that.
Products.
Here we go. Maybe some gray hairs will help. You could just do like streaks of gray in your hair just to age it in.
It's like in right now too. So you have a project in Vista. I like talking about this because we actually had one of your guys in your brokerage on here, Vic, and Vic, he's doing some big things. We're trying to collaborate with him as well, but we have. You guys have a deal in Vista that was originally a fix and flip and turned into a huge development deal. How's that going?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So far, so good. Vic just sent me a message saying, hey, pay the architect X amount of money. I'm like, okay. And so, because this stuff doesn't do it by itself. It costs money. This was a good deal. He pitched it to me. It was a crappy little house on a big lot in Vista. And he's like, seller wants 700. What do you think? I was like, I think it's worth 700. So pass.
And like after repair value.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I passed, and I didn't think about it immediately right there because every day I'm getting pitched 5-10 deals. And so I have to go through them quickly, Yeah. And so, point of reference in that, if you're trying to pitch a deal, give me everything. Give me the numbers. Give me what you think it's going to cost. Give me what the comps are realistically, not 100,000 over the comps, but the real comps. And so then I can tell you, make a decision real quick on whether it makes money or not. And so on this one, Vic says it's worth 700. He wants 700. Do you see something I don't? And I was like, nope, pass. Slept on it. Like 2 weeks later, I had a dream about the property. It was like literally like 2 weeks later.
Wow.
I woke up and I was like, Vic, call that seller. We want that property.
Wow.
And he's like, okay, cool. What happened? I was like, dude, look, there's multifamily everywhere. I checked the zoning. It's multifamily zoning.
So it's been rezoned and he didn't even know.
It was that zoning.
Yeah.
But I wasn't presented with that information initially. Right. Which is key to know.
This is why you say send over everything.
Yeah.
But they may have not known either.
We get better at this, right? So I kind of saw the clues, and I think something triggered my mind because I remember looking at the aerial, and then there was an apartment complex north of it. Apartment complex being built.
This is on Santa Fe, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
already
run
done.
by there. Yeah, because
it's a brand new. It's like the only brand new complex on Santa Fe, like downtown Vista.
Just south of us is a notice of proposed action for another new multifamily, and then just south of that is a Walgreens.
Yeah,
right?
I know that. Yeah,
right. So you know where it's at. So we get this deal. We call them, say 700,000. I was like, but I need terms. Right. Too smart for paying 700,000 out the
because chances are nobody else has given him 700 cash.
He'd already filed out of escrow on this one.
Okay.
Right. Maybe once or twice before. So He had a $70,000 mortgage on there, and I said, I need terms. He's like, just give me the $70,000 to pay off the mortgage, and I'll carry the remaining $630 at $2,500 a month, which equates to a 4.75%.
So he went from having his mortgage paid off, you being in first position, which first position means that the loan was now the seller is the bank, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We have a recorded contract and memorandum of understanding that we'll close within 30 days of getting a permit to build our new 33-unit, 40,000 square foot building there.
33 units.
Yeah.
Off of one house.
Correct.
33.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's a big lot. I always run by there.
How much? How big is the lot?
22,000 square feet.
It's like a little bit less than half an acre.
Correct.
22,000
and 33 units on half an acre. So you're building up, obviously. What's the height requirement?
That one's gonna be 60 feet tall
60
total.
60 feet. Okay.
4 stories with a rooftop. And the cool thing is so we had a $2,500 payment, and there's a renter on site, $2,000 a month. Vic got them to bump it to $2,200,
and they're still paying.
That person, also in this creative economy, has 2 trailers in the back that they rent out as Airbnbs.
Yeah.
And so they're making their money, living there comfortably. So our holding cost on this thing is $300 a month, plus my architect bills.
Right. Until it's time to build. And then we'd close once permits are approved and we're ready to build, what they like to call shovel ready.
And then the seller gets his remaining $630 because I'm just making the interest payments right now. Win-win-win.
Deal.
Win-win-win, right?
It's a very
And
good
now
deal.
Vic's going to be, we're both 25% owners. We're leaving 50% for our investors.
Okay. So you raise capital for this and then put that into the ownership of the capital partners. Actually, we had a question on here. Hold on. Let me see. He's not on here, but he said, hey, if I wanted to invest, he sees that we're doing a bunch of deals. If I had money and wanted to invest with you, how would I do that? This would be one of those deals, right? This would be one of those deals?
Absolutely. I kind of have this in my inner circle right now. I haven't opened this up to anyone else yet. We weren't planning to get to that phase until we were ready to build, and then we need $4 to $5 million. At this stage, I need like $300,000 to $500,000, so I can kind of do that with me and my buddies,
Right. And
so, but some of the other projects that are coming through, like we just got another property in National City in a premium location, 10,000 square foot lot. There was a little carve out with a 2,000 square foot lot.
National City's I drive by that freeway and you can just see the front. There's building and then there's like crappy buildings next to it.
Give it another chance. On 8th Avenue, they're revitalizing. There's Market on 8th. There's 12 little shops in there, bars, restaurants. There's a new place called Parco. Parco is a 90-unit building, built, completed in 2021. They leased up in 2 months. They have co-living spaces that are renting for $1,600 a bedroom in a 3-bedroom spots. And they filled up.
How does co-working? How does that work?
So you have it furnished building, right? And they're renting out the rooms by bedroom, $1,600 a bedroom.
It's like a dorms type setting, or
almost, yeah,
kind of like that, but it's 60% military. It's National City. It's right there.
So as far as if they want to live off base, they can go stay in the co-living.
They don't have to buy a bunch of furniture, and they also offer weekly housekeeping and stuff.
Does that have to be zoned for that, or they got it zoned for it?
Well, it's a mix. The building has traditional units, furnished units, and co-living units.
Wow.
And the rents are through the roof. So National City is really coming up. They're really pushing for pro-development, pro-housing, pro-commerce. In fact, they just rolled out last week. They have that new golf cart transit system that they have.
Yeah, and Oceanside has that.
So does downtown, so does PB.
You download an app, they can come and get you, and they do a whole tour for free.
Correct. Well, it's supposed to be meant as transportation, like last mile transportation.
It's being paid for by tax dollars, from my understanding now.
It varies, in different areas. Like, for example, downtown, it's paid for by the BID, the Business Improvement District.
Okay.
Right. So each of the businesses pay a small fee to be part of this district. And that fund goes towards that, in addition to keeping the streets clean and stuff like that.
Okay.
They're also paying for security because there's transients.
Yeah, Oceanside's got security walking around downtown now. I've never seen that before growing up there.
For sure. Well, I mean, when they just bust 8,000 migrants to Oceanside in the last 2 weeks, it's going to be an issue.
Did you see the video with the border? They just had the fence open for like construction, and then like there's just people running through, including a dog.
Oh, shoot.
You didn't see that?
No.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was crazy.
That is crazy.
All right, so 33 units. What was the other one you had in?
So National City one is a good one right now.
National City.
It's like a rectangle lot, but one small corner of the rectangle is owned by another person. So I was like, I need the whole thing. I can't just have this one little corner carved out because I'm building a 5-6 story building here.
Yeah.
And I told my agent, he just joined my team. I was like, you got to get that guy.
Yeah.
He called. He's like, he wouldn't listen. He hung up on me. I was like, you're not saying the right things. He said, well, what'd I say? I was like, look, we're buying the building next to you, and you're gonna have 2 years of construction. We just want to chat with you and get ahead of this. Now we're meeting for lunch on Monday.
Oh, I was gonna say, if you guys are having trouble talking to them, send them our way.
It's like what Tina says, not what you
It's
say,
not
it's
how you say it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure. And so now the second call worked a lot better, right?
Mhm.
Because you're saying the wrong things. And I learned that lesson a long time ago. If someone tells you no, it's because you asked it the wrong way.
Right. Or maybe not right now.
Yeah.
Could be either or.
But if you know it's compelling, you're just not explaining your value properly.
And you're going to turn these into the co-living space thing, or?
It's just one option. We're getting feasibility on this thing. On this one, I need to close in about 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm moving on this one. 3 developer friends of mine that are large developers are all interested in clamoring. And so it's nice to have demand. So I could offload it, but I said, hey, just let me go along for the ride on this one because this is going fast and furious. And
they kind of are on top of it, helping you out.
Well, they could be on top of it and let me keep a percentage and go along for the ride because, appreciate all the accolades, but I know where my limitations are and I haven't built a building like this at this scale.
Right.
And the holding costs on 1.7 million plus another $500,000 in architecture fees is heavy.
$500,000 in architecture fees?
Well, it's going to be structural engineering. It's going to be environmental. It's going to be parking studies, traffic studies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everyone's $50,000.
Yeah. It all adds up.
And then architecture alone will at least be $300,000 to $400,000.
So, okay. And then what's the turnaround time for this to be finished?
2 to 2.5 years for plans to be done. National City's a little bit slower still. And then another 1.5 years to build. So figure about 4 years total, 4 or 5 years total.
It's a 10,000 square foot lot, but you're going to be building up.
It'll be 12,000 because I got that owner and I'm going to get him to work with it.
What's the height requirement on that one?
There's no height requirement, but the neighboring building's up to 8 stories right now. So typically most of the area is 95 feet without a discretionary permit where you need special like public approval and FAA approval. So you can go up to 95 feet, which is like 9 stories. I don't think we need to go that big. The reality is once you go over 5 stories, you can build 5 stories with just wood framing. Once you go over 5, you have to do podium where it's concrete. And
down below, like those cinder blocks that we see?
Yeah, you'll see like 2 levels of like parking garage or whatever it is, or 1 level, and then you can go 7 stories like that. So it's like
for the
2
foundation.
plus or 4 plus. So if you see like an 8-story building, it's like 3 levels of concrete, 5 levels of wood.
That's crazy. I want to start.
So that gets a lot more expensive. Yeah, that gets a lot more expensive to do that. So if you could stay at 5 or less, it's cheaper. But the reality is like San Diego real estate's hard to lose.
No, yeah.
You know what? Somebody told me we went to Puerto Rico, and the owner of the Airbnb in Puerto Rico said, "Anything by the beach, you can't lose."
Yeah, unless the beach goes away, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that would happen is like Waterworld.
Like a big tsunami.
Yeah, yeah. You got questions, Ed?
Yeah, I had a few. From the knowledge you know now to your first flip, what are some things that you would tell yourself or give it advice, specifically to the new viewers that are looking to do their first flip?
One, don't try to do it yourself.
Facts.
Get a team together, get people that are experienced to work with you, work with someone experienced like us for your first 10, 20, 30 deals at least. And guess what? If they're a good partner that wants to value your lifelong relationship, they're going to keep wanting you to succeed with or without them, right? And be along that ride. So I've heard way too many stories of I tried to do it myself and it was too hard, or I couldn't, and then I'd sell it off and I gave up and now I'm back to my 9 to 5.
Right.
Versus you could have just taken half the money, worked with someone that knows what they're doing, and started killing it,
I heard somewhere I'd rather have half of a watermelon than a whole grape.
For sure.
So it's the same concept.
Same concept. So work with someone that's good. Second, when you work with someone that's good, don't just rely on their reputation. Do a deep dive. So I've had bad partners that had what I thought was a stellar reputation. And then when it turned into a legal mess, dug into it, I found out they had millions of dollars of judgments against them, which if I had done that deep dive.
Which means they've lost lawsuits, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Wow. It's good to know.
Yeah. No,
I'm going to start doing that myself.
So
making sure they don't have any judgments and lawsuits against you.
Well, for sure. If you're working with someone, you gotta kind of deep dive it, And so that's why Lawyers are expensive, but
all day and do background, so it's not too hard for us to do.
a little bit. Do that, please.
What about new investors? Do you suggest them getting a license?
I don't see any problem with it. I think it's nice because that it gives you more tools in your toolbox.
Yeah.
And then the reality is, like, if you're a new investor and if you're not doing a deal a week, well, shoot, would you take a client out to see $1 million, $2 million houses for $20,000?
Yeah. It's like you said, another tool on your belt.
Yeah.
So he also owns a brokerage. He's an EXP, correct?
Oh yeah. I don't own EXP, but I'm an EXP associate broker.
Right.
And I own my team.
Right.
So they kind of work as an independent brokerage. I'll give you some stats because it's a virtual brokerage, but Tuesday we had the state broker come and spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with our team, just talking and chatting. He's like, I just show up just to let people know we're a real brokerage with real people and stuff like that. It's not just avatars and stuff like that. But we've got 21 teams in San Diego, including some of the largest volume teams in terms of volume of transactions that we do. In the California itself, we have 12,000 agents, which is more than any other brokerage.
Wow.
And internationally, we're up to almost 90,000 agents, and I think we're in 26 different countries.
Internationally, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. And one thing I like is the only brokerage that I see in San Diego where every single agent is actually, they're actively investing. So if they're not wholesaling, they're not fixing and flipping themselves, or they're not taking down subject to, whether it be in San Diego or out of state, right? If you're going to want to get into real estate investment and you consider getting into real estate and maybe getting your license and you maybe want somewhere to go, you might want to go with somewhere that's investor friendly versus there's a lot of talk about agents and investors, right? There's a stigma. And I like the fact that you bring that together.
Yeah. I mean, it's I've been adding agents like 2-3 a month this past year. It's been good. And every time it's like, oh, my broker doesn't help me with this, or my broker doesn't know about that side of the business. And nothing wrong with their broker. They were great at teaching them how to go from 0 to 100 to sell houses.
Right.
But they don't know about development. They don't know how to read the code. They don't know how to get investors together. They don't know how to get a project to do it themselves because they haven't done it themselves.
Right.
And I'm doing it. And that's the difference. Right. I'm still doing the transactions. We're still selling houses.
Leading by the front. In a way, you're like in the trenches with your boys. I like that
for sure. And so I'll do the calls, and when we're hunting down sellers, I'm calling their neighbors up. I'm like, where's that guy? I'm calling their neighbors' relatives up. I'm like, where's that guy at?
Yeah.
Till everyone calls me pissed off, but I'm not violating do not call because I'm not selling anything.
Yes, it's funny you say that. So we were talking to somebody. I think they actually might be watching. No, she's not watching, but she had somebody sent them. It was an attorney sent them a letter saying they're going to sue them because they violated the do not call list.
Oh yeah. One of the guys on my team got this last week.
Yeah. So when they had asked me about it, it's based off FDCPA guidelines.
TCPA, yeah.
TCPA. Yeah. Okay. So not necessarily Fair Housing and Debt Collections Act. It's the other one.
Telecommunications Protection Act.
Okay. So it's just calling people in general.
No, the specific rules that I understand are that if you call someone to sell a product.
Right.
Or offer your services for compensation.
Right.
You're violating the rule.
So is buying a house offering service for compensation, or is that a gray area?
No, I'm asking to buy your house.
Right. Because I'm not interested. Interested in what? Interested in whatever you're selling. I'm actually not selling anything. I'm buying. What's up?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But you're going to get those attorneys that, they know how to write a letter, right? And they know how to send that letter out.
Well, they got to say that, oh yeah, they offered to sell my house, and that's what this agent on my team did. He's like, he broke. So he did do that, and he thought he was getting a clean list because he paid for it from Realtor.com.
And Realtor.com is supposed to scrub it.
They're supposed to scrub it, and then when he checked the clauses, like, oh, we only promise it's 95% accurate. I'm like, what good is 95%? Is that 5% of those lawyers are going to sue you?
So maybe the approach should be like, I want to buy the house. And they're like, well, we're going to list it. Okay. And then you have the conversation of wanting to list it. Can they still be fell underneath that? Or is that a gray area?
That sounds like a gray area. Like I've thought about that, game planned it out in my scripts practice. And I was like, well, if someone said that, I'm like, well, let's meet and discuss it. I wouldn't offer it on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're interested in talking about that, let's meet and discuss it.
Don't text anything either. I say jump on the phone and talk about it if you're going to do anything. But yeah. Okay, that's good knowledge to know.
I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer on that. You could consult with your attorneys on that rule.
I agree.
But I think that's a good loophole as I'm interested to buy your house.
Yeah. Okay. I just came across, a lot of times we're just driving by and doing driving for dollars. We've done a lot of driving for dollars, and it would either turn into a lead for buying a house, somebody who already owns a bunch of property and has money or capital. So now it's PML, right?
Yep.
Or they turn into a buyer and they're looking for more buyers. So you never know what you're getting into when you actually call a property.
For sure. It's always fun. It's like treasure hunting.
What is a big marketing strategy that's working for you guys right now?
I mean, I still have door knockers out there.
Mm.
And that's useful. And then agent outreach.
Okay.
And then even my own team, now that I've got 20 plus agents, they're finding deals.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching them the scripts. I'm teaching them the things to do, whether they're sending postcards or having calls or handwritten letters or door knocking. Those are all tactics at work. You just have to do it.
Right.
Most conversations wins.
Putting in your reps.
Yep.
I just actually posted that today. I was doing push-ups and they say repetition is the father of learning. You got to get your reps in.
Yep, for sure.
Straight up.
Yeah, you got to do it. You can't be scared. Don't worry about getting your headshot right. Just get out there and start doing the work.
Straight up. I think just looking at your Instagram, because I did a little bit of a deep search, I saw a lot of cool concepts on your developments, especially your ADUs. What's kind of been like your favorite build that you've ever done?
You know, we were at a client's build just right before this for someone else's podcast, and it was 2 ADUs above a 3-car garage. And so 3-car garage in the ground level, 664 square foot, 1-bedroom ADU in the second level. Third level had a 335-foot studio with a large patio, maybe 100, 150 square feet, and another large outdoor storage.
It's like a balcony almost.
Yeah, and it was like a covered patio, but they called it storage, but it was like another 150 square feet. So it's like California living space.
Right.
And, you know, it's going to be a cash cow. It has a nice view of looking southward. You can see all the way to Mexico, all the way to the Coronado Bridge.
Mexico's pretty at nighttime.
For sure. It's got some good sparkles. Yeah. You can't tell those buildings are crumbling.
They're just lights.
It's like, you see that little cluster of lights over there?
It's collapsed.
That's Mexico.
Yeah. So that was a good one, you know, but the SDA, Sustainable Development Areas mapping, which expands TPA to 1 mile of transit, makes about 2/3 to 3/4 of San Diego favorable to unlimited ADUs on your property up to your Florida area ratio maximum.
Wow. So is that including height requirements as well? Because
height requirements,
like 24 on top of a
24 feet is the height requirement. And so I'm working on one with Mike on my team. Brought me this property and said,
Mike,
"Hey, what do you?"
Brigrio.
Yep.
Okay.
He's got a property over by San Diego State. He said, "Hey, what do you think of this flip? We're flipping it." I was like, "Dude, I think you could stack a bunch of ADUs in the back." Dug into it with a couple of architects. We're in permitting right now for 14 ADUs in the back of this thing.
Sheesh. Yeah. So the triplex in Garfield, I think we can put one more unit on there.
Okay.
So it'd be like the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. 14, 1. Yeah. Same.
I mean, I'm working my way up. It's not 33. It's not 33 or 14, but we're gonna do a deal together. Watch. I've been already saying it. We're gonna do a deal together. I'm gonna because I'm heavily wanting to get into the ADU game. I want to do construction out here. It's development. Ironically, so when I first got into real estate back in full time, I did the real estate classes in Texas, and one of the guys that was a teacher in the class was a developer from Austin. And as soon as he told me what he did and explained it, I was like, that's it, right? But it wasn't in the idea of doing ADUs and condensed housing in California, because at the time I was, living in Texas. It was like subdivisions, and in Texas what they're doing is there's so much land still. So people are just buying land and then throwing 30, 40 houses on it. Like really nice brick build houses or shopping centers. So, but development was ultimately what I wanted to get into. So, we started off the wholesaling, the fix and flip. Now we're doing the creative finance and kind of working our way up. So if you guys are wanting to get into any type of build or development in San Diego, you need to reach out to Henish. We even reach out to Henish when we're wanting to do deals. That's why he's on the show, to help you guys out if you're a newbie. What other questions you got?
Do you ever think about doing anything else other than real estate? Maybe getting into a different business, like toilets.
I do like the ideas of businesses. The dream would be is that I have enough passive income from my projects that's coming in that I could pay attention to any pet projects. One of the things that kind of inspired me to that was when you who's the director for Titanic, James Cameron. When you dig into his story, you find out that he only makes movies now to fund his scientific research.
Oh, wow.
So he just pays for scientific research making movies?
Correct. He's like, this is just the way I make money so I can do my science, which is incredible, you know? And so, do I have other interests? I have 100 other interests, bro. You know, I was just spent the last 30 minutes talking to Michael out there about archaeology and anthropology and ancient history. I love that stuff. I love technology. I love space. I love science. I love advancements in any technology. I think it's cool to see. I just happy to be a witness to everything that's happening on our planet and all the great things that people can do.
What are some hobbies you have? Like, what does Henish do on his downtime other than being a family man and hanging with his kids? Does he have you?
Bro, you know this? Yeah, I play.
I was going to say basketball.
I play basketball a couple times a week. I play beach volleyball every week still.
Okay.
Hit the gym 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm in an entrepreneurs organization group. I get to spend some time with these guys, which is cool because I'm in a group with 230 other mega business owners, including owners of banks and huge tech firms, and it's pretty cool.
That sounds cool.
So we get to do a lot of cool things. Like a couple of weeks ago, I got to meet Tony Hawk.
Yeah,
right.
I remember you telling me about that. And
so like we get to do meet and greets with influential people.
He was a speaker there too. I saw in like your story.
Small event, 100 people. Just half of our group was there. And
did he give like any good advice, or what did you hear him talk about?
He was cool. He was good. You know, it's always cool to be in the energy of people that are, you know, like it's like being at a concert. You can feel the vibe. You know, which is nice.
But, it's high level.
Yeah, but I thought in effectiveness, his HBO Max movie that came out last year, the documentary, was more profound. It was more impactful.
I saw that. It actually was really good too.
It was really good.
It was mainly talking about like near the end is how he's getting old, right? And he has to like kind of stop doing skateboarding. Is that what it is?
That's part of it, but there was a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there that gets into the deeper vulnerabilities of being a human, which is like, did he fail as a husband and as a father? And did he neglect his kids? And he's on his third wife, and you know all the things that he did wrong.
Right.
Kind of thinks back on it, but ultimately the man just loves skateboarding so much that was his passion.
It really is.
So everything else took a backseat to that. And so he talks about that. And, you know, if he talks about his regrets, he's like, yeah, should I maybe have spent more time with my kids, or, you know, things like that.
He was on tour a lot.
He's on tour. He's traveling. He's making the video game. He, you know, and he was skateboarding, and he talks about he wasn't always success, even though he's #1 as a teenager.
Yeah.
Skateboarding kind of went through its popularity ebbs and flows.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
There'd be a few years where it's hot, and then it'd be dead, and then it'd get hot. And things like that.
Now it's an actual sport that's in the Olympics.
It's really hot right now. Yeah, especially with like clothing, all these, you know, it's just
you can get endorsements like if you were an athlete for football or basketball even. Yeah. Like you get Nike deals, right? I think Vans does deals and Adidas does deals as well.
Well, yeah, and so, you know, Tony Hawk, he was saying that his most lucrative business decision was the video game.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge, and a lot of those guys that are in the first 2 games, they're from around here.
Oh yeah,
I see.
Yeah, well, he's from here.
Well, he's Carlsbad, I believe, right? So I have a buddy. He owns a pho restaurant in Encinitas called Forever. Okay, and all those guys come in there and they'll eat. So like I've seen Danny Way, Steve Caballero. Yeah. Tony Hawk's been in there. Rob Machado, he serves, but he's from it's growing up there, and you like for people who are not from here, they don't care. They're like, who are these people, right?
But these are local legends,
right?
They're local legends.
They are local legends, and so for example, my daughter was like, "Daddy, I want to skateboard," and I'm like, "Cool." Well, my buddy knows the whole Zero team and Jamie Thomas, so we got a signed board by Jamie Thomas, put it together by one of the pros, and boom, now she's got a signed skateboard. And she don't even really she got it. But it's just crazy that you can be able to do that here versus like anywhere else, right?
For sure.
Like Dallas doesn't have a skate team that you can, you know what I mean? So
I know you kind of touched up on, you know, Tony Hawk talking about his, you know, success and his vulnerable moments in his career. Has there ever been a moment where like, hey, like maybe, you know, real estate isn't my thing, or hey, you know, maybe
like almost quit?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit right now that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm having a serious issue with one of my lenders. I had a project that dragged down a little too long because I had to get permits from Imperial Beach. Okay. And typically when you get a hard money loan, they're good for a year. Yeah. So I got some extensions in, and then
had to pay that 1%.
Sometimes it was 2%. So I've been paying through the roof to keep this thing going, but it's now down to sticks only, right? So the foundation and sticks, we just put in electrical. And they're like, hey, we're denying the extension. I was like, and then they wanted to.
Did they have a reason why?
Then they wanted to kill the draws on all my other projects. And then they didn't want to fund my new projects. And then I'm going to have judgments on me. And I'm like, this is killing my business. I'm going to have to leave the country, you know? And so I was like, you got to get someone on because this is a not make sense decision.
Right.
As the bank, like, give me a few more months, we're done. So finally I found out today, they were like, hey, it looks like your permits were issued earlier this year. You only took out 15% of your draw. Why didn't you get more work done? And what they don't know is maybe I did a bad job of communicating it to them, is that as soon as we demoed and got that first 15% done, we found out that the house that was there was built shoddily. No structural, no footings. There was like decorative posts that were patio posts that were holding up the house. We had to take all that out and fix it. Inspector came through and says, you got to redo this with structural.
Right.
Guess what? That's another 4 or 5 months. And so the project just sat there. And so the bank, maybe it was,
For
I
permitting,
thought,
4 or 5 months of permitting.
I thought I told the bank that was the case. And so when I finally had the conversation earlier today, they're like, okay, that makes sense. Just send us some evidence, right? I got the permit track and the
get your
emails to
funding
show
back on track.
Yeah. And so but for the last 4 or 5 days, I was trying not to take it out on my family because I was like on the edge.
How late did you stay up thinking about that? Because I'd been up like pacing back and forth.
I mean, the worrying doesn't, my friend asked me this last week when I was playing basketball. He's like, guys, do you worry about the future of humanity? I'm like, no. And he's like, well, why not? I was like, what the heck are you going to do about it? Just live for right now. Live for right now. Try to, plan, if you need, I got a 30-day supply of water in my house, that's about it. But short of that, if anything goes nuclear, like I'm not going to worry about it.
Right. You just make do with what you got.
For sure. And so with stressful situations like this, like, yeah, you internalize it because who else is there for you? It's only me. It's only on me on these things. I can't blame my project manager or the city of Imperial Beach. I get it. They're slow and it's just part of the business. But
accountability,
it got a lot worse, right? It's the ownership, right? It's all on me. And my tip is that I read Kindle. I probably read 2-3 books a month. And so I can put it on the dark setting. So it's like white letters with dark. So it's barely bright. And I'll read to go to bed. Yeah. Because then I can like transport myself to some fiction world. Yeah. Whether it's whatever the story is. And then I'm like,
kind of shuts off your brain.
Yeah. It gets me stop thinking about stresses from the work. And I'm like, okay, I just read the silly story about whatever person. 10, 20 minutes. Okay, I'm good. Put it down. Sleep immediately. Yeah.
See, I'm like that with surfing, not for sleeping, but like if something's on my mind weighing heavily and I'm finding it to be like, you have those overwhelming days and you just like, you take a minute and you're like, it's been a day, right?
For sure.
So for me, it's, stuff like that happens. It's like, there's not even any waves today, but we're going to go in the water. Yep. Right. And I'm just going to paddle for an hour if I need to do that.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with any sport or anything like that is that you can't think about anything else. If I'm working about getting this next point or catching this next wave, you can't think about, should I got to fund that deal tomorrow?
Right. And you can't answer your phone. That's what I tell everybody. You can't answer your phone when you're in the water.
Can't answer your phone.
And so
there's no notifications.
I love that. Yeah. And that's my favorite part is the no notifications. And then sometimes that's what I tell everybody. Some of the problems solve themselves. Like they can't get a hold of you. And it's like Ed saying, hey, we need to do this. We need to do that. And then I come back. And then that message after that is, never mind, I got it fixed.
Problem solved itself, right? Time healed.
I love that. And just keep that energy. That's cool, man. That's cool. So is there anything else you want to share with the people? Maybe some newbies, or if you want to get some people to collaborate with you, I'll recommend collaborating with Henish. We're doing the same thing. Anything you want to tell the viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you like what we're doing, you want to be a part of it and you want to learn more. I mean, I'm talking to people. I always have 15 minutes for someone to see what you're up to and if we're a fit. We've got free events that are awesome. The next one's coming up on October 12th. I believe it's a Thursday night at Cal Home Co. We'll be talking about ADUs a little bit further. We've got some top designers coming to talk about the newest rules and stuff like that. So that's cool. We have monthly events like that to come and meet, no obligation, and connect with other great people in San Diego real estate and development world. Okay.
So where's some social medias that they can reach you out of? Like if you're looking for Henish, where do you find him at?
I've got my guy that posts on social media for Instagram and Facebook. I'm on there. That's probably
so Instagram probably.
Yeah. So if you're on there, I don't do the TikTok just because I don't love China tracking me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the U.S. tracking me, but
isn't that China?
Google tracks me. Everyone else tracks me. But
got anybody here? Anybody got any questions in the live? We got anybody with questions in the live? I got Guillermo watching. What up, Guillermo? I got Miss Myra Conde. Myra's amazing. And then Miss Jess. You guys got any questions before we let Henish go? Anybody? Did you guys like what you saw today? Give me some fire emojis if you liked what you heard and saw. Is anybody even paying attention?
One of your people earlier wholesaled me a house, and we're working on that one. That was a good one. We had a beehive in it. There's a acre property, 3/4 of an acre, huge lot.
Where was this at?
Lemon Grove.
Grove.
Old ass house from 1930. And
Ancient.
I got it red tagged right before it closed. So
what?
Yeah.
So like, hey, you got to fix this. You did. This
no, we had to get it permitted. So we sent in for permits 3-4 weeks ago. We're still waiting on Lemon Grove. We just sit there with hands under our butts, saying,
as soon as you
when can we work on this thing?
So
just
permits
burning interest
just to do like regular rehab.
If they red tag it, you gotta get permits, even for a cosmetic rehab.
Wow.
And they ask for structural, even though we're just keeping the house as it is.
Make sure you haven't like taken any walls down or anything.
We haven't taken anything down. It's probably because the roof is collapsing. The place is in crap condition.
So Myra gave fire emojis. Miss Jess raised her hands. I'm assuming she sold you the house.
I believe so. I can't see
you
it from here.
You sold him a house with beehives and red tags, Jess. You need to come back with a better deal.
There's a guy on TikTok. He's from San Diego, and he's like a beekeeper, and he goes to different properties. He lifts up the tiles and everything else. It's like 1 billion bees under there. The collective of honey is just like amazing.
That's like a good business.
This was a big one. Usually my beehive removals are like $300 to $500, but this one was $1,100.
$1,100 in bees.
How big
hey, but homeboy's gonna be making money off that honey.
Yeah,
for sure.
Just said yeah. All right, guys, that's all the time we got today. If you guys like it, you can follow him at Cow Home Co. Do you mind the personal? H
Pulickal.
H Pulickal. Keep it simple.
We'll have the links.
Cow Home Co. is not hard to find. It's very simple. California Home Company. If you guys have any questions for him, or you want to just like collaborate, or maybe you're looking for a brokerage that's investor friendly, and you're wanting to work with people that are actively investing but are also realtors, reach out to my guy. We are out.